Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar with Mentimeter. What a great crowd we're having today. There's a lot of people here, and that makes me really happy to see. And what a great representation of universities as well. Amazing. Really happy that you could make it, all of you. Let's get going. We are at 15:00, so let's go. Hello and welcome again then to today's webinar with Mentimeter. Today we're going to have a look at how you can use Mentimeter to improve learning outcomes. My name is Emily and I am a customer success manager here at Mentimeter. And that means that I am working with a lot of different universities and businesses. And my main focus is always to make sure that our customers and especially our users get the absolute most value out of their Mentimeter license. So basically making sure that everyone has everything they need and can excel in their Mentimeter usage. The session today is going to be interactive. So like always with Menti, we will have a lot of different questions that we're going to go through. So if you haven't already, please make sure to join my presentation. We have the code up top here on my screen, and it's going to be available there throughout the whole presentation. I'm seeing that someone is already trying out the comments. That makes me really happy. So we also, like you saw just now, we have the instant comments available throughout this webinar. That's a great way to say hello, add on to what I'm saying, maybe make a joke or anything like that. Just kind of show me that you're tagging along to what I'm saying or following along. I can also see that a whole bunch of you have found our reactions. So please hit me with a heart, a thumbs up, or a little cat emoji to show me that you have been able to join my presentation. Lastly, we will have the Q&A open throughout the session today. Yeah, exactly. It's a cat emoji. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A in Mentimeter, and then we can have a look at them together throughout. As we're quite a few of us today, the questions will be moderated. So we will just make sure that we don't have any duplicates and that we stay kind of on topic. Today's webinar will also be recorded, and you will get both the recording and the presentation after we end the session. Lastly, I want to say that it's not only me hosting this webinar today. We also have Astra with us. Astra, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. I am so happy to see so many of you here, both in the live stream event and also so many of you have joined the Menti. So as Emily said, she's going to be sharing a lot of inspirational kind of new ways of using Mentimeter and all of the question types. And I will be supporting her by sending some links in the live stream chat. So if you're looking for any step-by-step guides or tutorials, then that will be in the live stream chat. And once you receive the recording, you will also get the entire chat from live stream. So all of those links will be at your disposal after. So yeah, that's a little bit about my role here today.
Thank you, Astra. Perfect. And with that, I think we're ready to go. Let's start with a little check-in question already. So up until today, how often have you used Mentimeter? And to the little comment there on the right-hand side, the most of the features that we're going to go through are available for all users. But most of you that are here are also here because you have a university-wide license, and that means that there is like an unlimited amount of seats for kind of your premium paid license at the university. Astra is going to pop the link to kind of, if you don't know how to join your university subscription, we can help you with that. So Astra will send a link to a little survey. We can add your uni email if you need help to kind of know where to go from now. But of course, kind of our premium license are unlimited, and that's the way to get kind of all of the features that we're going to go through today. But you can do quite a lot with our free license as well. Nice. We have a very nice kind of bell curve here. Most of you have created Menti have presented in Menti a few times. For some, this is their very first experience, and we have a bunch that are mega champions. So that's also fun to see. We're going to have some elements today where I want to hear kind of about your experiences with Menti, and we're going to reflect a little bit together. So every one of you, please be ready to kind of share your Menti experience with the rest of us today. But now let's take a look at today's agenda. For today, we're first going to check on the power of Mentimeter in higher education. We're then going to move into kind of the two main content bits that we're having today. So first, we're going to check on how to best facilitate active learning with Mentimeter, and then how to capture student insights with Mentimeter. And then, of course, we have the Q&A. It's going to be open throughout, so don't wait until the very end to pop your question in the Q&A, but write it straight away so that we can cover them as we go along. And that's it. So let's go. The power of Mentimeter then. So what is Mentimeter, and what is the power of Mentimeter in higher education? Basically, Mentimeter is a platform for easily gathering input from a group, visualizing it clearly in real time, and then saving and sharing those insights for later. As an educator, this enables you to both improve learning outcomes and increase student satisfaction. And this is done through Menti by supporting you in how to facilitate active learning. We can support you in leveraging students' insight to maximize teaching potential and to equalize the opportunity for student participation. Finally, a kind of unofficial tagline to Mentimeter is that when using Mentimeter and when posting a question for an entire group, everyone is given a voice and everyone is heard. So basically, by using Mentimeter in your classrooms, in your team meetings, you make sure that everyone, independently of them being new or with lots of experience, with being an introvert or an extrovert, can make sure that they can make their voice heard. And by that, Mentimeter is also sometimes called a democratic tool. All of that sounds nice, but you might ask me, what do we have to back it up? And that is actually a question that we asked ourselves as well here at Menti. So we wanted to have a look at if everything that we felt kind of would also be true scientifically, so to say. So Mentimeter have partnered with a bioinformatics company that is called Emotive, and we actually made a study on kind of how Mentimeter impact learning. So Emotive conducted a study where they had one presentation with engaging elements on the Mentimeter, and then another presentation without engaging element, basically a PowerPoint presentation. And then they measured through these little fancy headsets, or how you say, kind of the brain activity of the participants, and measured on engagement, boredom, interest, attention, and cognitive load. How did it go, you might ask? And like overall summary, I think it went quite well. Mentimeter scored higher than the PowerPoint when it came to engagement, attention, cognitive load, and interest, and as much as 20% lower in boredom. I just wanted to give you kind of a little bit of a teaser about this, and you can read a lot more about kind of the study that we did in the link attached here. You will also be able to see the link in the chat in a little bit. Yeah, that's it about Menti. Now I think it's time to move on to the proper content bits for today. So now it's time for you guys to kind of help me to show off some of the question types. First bit is going to be about facilitating active learning through Mentimeter. I see that some of the questions are coming in the comment section, and it's sometimes a bit hard for me to kind of, as they come and then go again in a few seconds. So pop them in the Q&A instead, and then we can address them more easily, kind of. When we talk about facilitating active learning at Mentimeter, what we are kind of meaning with that is how to capture student engagement, how to have your students critically reflect on the content that is being presented, and then to kind of how to add the context to the content you are presenting with kind of the students' reflections and also kind of seeing their own reflections as compared to the rest of the group, basically. Let's jump forward. So this would be a first kind of example of how you can do that. And now I want everyone who's in your device to help me to put in some votes on the examples that we are presenting, so that we can see some results. This example is just basically a digital way of like show of hands. The question type is called this or that. And basically as a presenter, you add your question and then you have two options. This specific example is taken from a case study for a student group that was studying law. Then you had covered the teacher had covered the case. And then basically they covered the case and some of like the laws that were guiding in this case, and then basically posed a question to the student group on, if you were a judge handling this case, how would you have voted? And as you see now, when posting a question with Menti, we can see kind of people's responses with the visualization show up kind of directly on the screen. So like I mentioned, a digital version of a show of hands with, of course, the added benefits that you don't have to like count everyone manually, but you will see the results directly. And then it works as well kind of in a live setting as it would if you're doing a hybrid or remote teaching. Let's have a look at another example. So this question type is called pin on image. So with this one, as a presenter, I just add my question and then upload an image. And as you see right now, I've also chosen to hide the results. This means that everyone who's participating can put their votes on the question without it being showed for kind of the entire group. And that gives everyone who participates a possibility to kind of reflect and answer without being influenced by each other. If I want to hide the results, I take my pointer and I hover to the bottom left corner. And there you will see this little eye symbol. So from here, you have the possibility to both toggle hide and show results. In the bottom right corner, you will always be able to see kind of how many participants you're having on, or like how many people have already voted on your question. And that's a good kind of way to make sure that everyone has had the chance to answer before you show the results. This specific example is taken from a module where they were discussing like quality improvements and kind of how far you want to go to get 100% quality output, basically. And the session was set up in a way that they first kind of discussed different strategies on how to handle this, and then kind of had a look at this specific case here then. Everyone voted, and then afterward, you in the class had the discussion on kind of which cases you would go for, maybe the 80-20 approach, as we have down here, that 35 people have answered, and when it would be maybe more applicable to use a kind of when you need 100% result. With this pin on image question type, perfect, thank you. Each dot is basically a vote. And when we have more votes in the same place, the dot will get bigger, and you will see a number in it. So 36 people in the 80-20 corner on this one. With this question type, you can also have a correct area, should be the case. So it seems a bunch of you hit the correct area that you can just toggle on and off with your enter button. I see that we're starting to get some questions in the Q&A, so that's really fun to see. If everyone now kind of clicks on the open Q&A button, you will have the possibility to upvote the questions in the Q&A. So basically, give it a thumbs up. And that's a good way for me to make sure that the questions that we address are the ones that are seen as the most relevant for everyone in the audience. So in our Q&A section, the questions that have the most thumbs up will end up in the very top. So please, when you see kind of the numbers changing here, go in and check from now and then we can have a look at some of the questions in a little bit. Now we're going to have a look at another question type. So this one is called the 2x2 matrix. This specific example, we have, or this question type is built in the way that you, once again, you add your question, and then as a default, you're going to have axes that you can then put the label on. And I have put them in according to a leadership framework that focuses on people emphasis and task emphasis. And then we put in 3 different options, basically, that we want people to rate according to our matrix. As a presenter, I can also decide if I want to have a 2x2 or a 3x3 matrix, if I want to have an image in the background here instead, or maybe have kind of negative axes. The dot that we're seeing on the grid is going to be the average of everyone's votes. But if I also take my pointer and hover over one of these, we're also going to be able to see kind of the distribution of the votes. So basically, either one of them, every one of them is kind of one of the votes. I think we reached the maximum for the participants on this specific one. So that's fun to see. You're pushing us. But basically, if you then have a smaller class, you will also be able to see the distribution of the votes, and also have a possibility to have a discussion around kind of why do we think that we ended up in this particular quarter, and also kind of how are different people voting. So why do we have some people that maybe have voted very low on task emphasis, and some people that have voted very high? Let's have a look at a question before we move on. Can you use an existing PowerPoint presentation with Mentimeter? So we have a few different ways of connecting PowerPoint with Mentimeter. One of them is that there is a possibility to import your entire PowerPoint presentation into Mentimeter. Each slide in your PowerPoint would then turn up as kind of a static image within Mentimeter. And then you can kind of add on the reactions, the comments, and the Q&A on top of your slides. And then, of course, add in the different interactive elements in between them. We also have a PowerPoint plugin that basically makes it possible for you as a presenter to add in, I think it's maximum of 3 Mentimeter questions into your PowerPoint. If you have the PowerPoint plugin available or not will depend on kind of the admins and the IT setup at your specific university. So my suggestion would be to reach out to your admin and ask if you have the PowerPoint plugin available. But a very good question. Nice. Let's move on to a reflection question. So now I would like your input. So far in your teaching, how have you used Mentimeter to facilitate active learning? And as I mentioned in the beginning, when I talk about active learning, or when we talk about active learning at Mentimeter, we talk about in capturing your students' attention. We talk about having your student group critically reflect on the content that you're walking them through, and then adding context to whatever content or whatever modules or topics that you're covering. We are quite a few of us here today, but let's take a look at a few of the answers. So let's see, multiple choice questions and word cloud. Survey of current learning level, that's a good one. Warm up introduction to new topics, absolutely. Let's see, ask students to apply theory to a personal life, critical reflection. Oh, that's a great example. To check if students have understood the complex idea or concept. This is such a good use case, I would say, to basically in between your different topics, just do a quick check-in. Maybe like one of the examples earlier, or a multiple choice question, just kind of for you to see and for the students to reflect on the content that has been covered. And also see if kind of the concepts are setting, if people are following along, or if we maybe need to retake something. Check knowledge at the beginning of the class. Collect student search strings when explaining databases. This one is cool. I don't know if I've studied enough like database science to understand exactly how this would look, but I love it. Let's have a look at a few more of them. And like I mentioned, you're going to get the presentation afterwards. So even if we don't have the possibility to look at all of this today, you can go through every single input here after our session as well. Voting on what they think the correct answer is a great one as well. Using the scales question to evaluate confidence in completing learning outcomes. That one is that's a great one. We will have a look at a scales question at a later point in this webinar as well. Share a personal experience. Oh, that's good. I think that's a very nice way of utilizing the anonymity as well. So basically, people can share without or like share with the cloak of anonymity as a bit of protection. Lots of good input here. Thank you, everyone. It's great to see. Let's move on to the next section. So now we're going to have a look at how to capture students' insights with Mentimeter. So basically, how you can ask for your students' input to get to know them better, and kind of to understand where they are at in their current learning. And also, of course, to make sure that you can do changes to your teaching, or kind of help your students reach the goals that you're setting during a module, or even during a class, instead of waiting to the very end, kind of for a bigger, what do you call, end of year student reviews and stuff like that. Okay, let's have a look at the first one, and I'm going to hide the results again. So like I mentioned before, you take your pointer, you go down here, and you click on the I to hide and show. You can also do it by hitting the letter H on your keyboard. So this question type is called 100 points. So it is one of our kind of prioritization question types. And it is set up in the way that our participants have the possibility to submit or kind of distribute 100 priority points in between your different options. So for today, we are asking our audience, that is you guys or our participants, how you prefer to learn new things. And the options we're having are reading, lectures, individual assignments, and group discussions and seminars. I would say that this is one of those really quick checks that you can do early on, or if you realize that you have the possibility to maybe change something up or add something extra to your modules. And it's also good to know to just kind of get to know the preferences of your student group. So that you can tailor when there is a possibility, basically. Now let's unhide the results and see what our rating is. And as with all Menti question, we will see, it's very tight between the top two. We will see all results updating in real time. So as soon as people submit an answer, it's going to be updated here. Let's take one question before we move on. From the Livestorm chat, can you delay voting on a slide to allow time for students to consider the question? Absolutely. So like you saw, it's a possible, there's one possibility to kind of hide and show results. So then everyone have the possibility to answer without seeing people's responses. What you can also do is actually close the voting. So basically that makes, basically how you can then use it is that as soon as you flip to slide, you go here and click close voting. That means that it won't be possible for a student or a participant overall to submit their answer. And that gives you, as a presenter, some time to basically go through maybe the question, give them some guidance, and also give people some reflection time before you then open voting. So you can open and close voting, and you can hide and show results. Thank you for a great question. Now, let's move on to another example. So we're going to have a look now at one of the two real-time analysis options that we have in Mentimeter. The first one is connected to this question type, scales. The scales question is built up that you as a presenter, you type in your question, then you change kind of the labels on your axes. So today we're working with not at all confident to very confident. We then put in our different subjects and that we want people to rate basically, and then we kind of can change also the range of the axis. So today we have 1 to 5. You can also have 1 to 7 or 1 to 10 or whatever kind of fits your question. As we see the answers rolling in, we're going to see the average on all of these in the middle. And if we take our pointer, we will also be able to see kind of the distribution of answers kind of that is hiding behind the average, so to say. And that's a great way to just kind of immediately get a bit more insight into where the average or where the results are coming from. I think this is also extra interesting when you have a curve that is looking like a camelback. So you have like an average that looks okay, but then you might have two very separate groups that is either high or low on the scale. This specific question is coming from a user that was using Mentimeter to kind of check in on the confidence on the topics that they were going to cover in the module kind of throughout the course. So you had it at I think they had a check-in the very first time, and then of course as these were the topics of the module, you might have a lower score to begin with, but then you can see kind of the confidence increase throughout the lessons. But now to the real-time analysis option on this. So basically, when you're working with the scales question, when you have done multiple sessions on the same question in the same presentation, something called trends will be unlocked. So if you take your pointer and hover to the left-hand side, you can click on this one, Show Trends. And now you wonder, what am I looking at? So basically, I have pre-cooked 4 sessions for you. So we have added some results on the session 1, then we reset the results. Then we added some new results for session 2, reset the results again, and so forth. And the current one is where we are at right now. So that is your responses that came in just a second ago. And by using kind of this trends feature, you then have the possibility to see the results change over time. How do you enable this then, you might ask? So basically, when you are in this view, if you take your pointer and hover to the left-hand side, you will have the possibility to reset the results. So we can do that right now. You will then have the possibility to either reset it for the entire presentation or this slide. And now, basically, everyone has the possibility to submit their responses again. It's good to know that by resetting the results, you never remove them, you don't delete them, you just basically hide them from the current view. And then when we get our responses rolling in, we can once again then go to the left-hand side, click on Show Trends, and then we will have a new current session. So session 5 was the one we did right before, and now we then have the current session with a nice increase because we maybe had a hypothetical first lecture in between there. So that's it about the trends feature. Let's have a look at the other real-time analysis option that we have. And this one is called multiple choice with segmentation. So this would be your very typical multiple choice question. I think if you have created a Menti before, this would probably be one of the first question types that you interact with. I have changed the layout from the typical one with the bars to this one that I think is called the pie layout. So in this example, we are first querying our students on if they are feeling that they are keeping up with the course so far. And when it comes to segmentation, which is the second real-time analysis option that we have, it is built in the way that you first ask one multiple choice question, and then you use the answers on that question to drill down into results of a second multiple choice question. So this would be our segmentation question then. Let's have a look at the second one. So now you see something new here. This is also a multiple choice question. So I'm asking you the follow-up question then. Is there anything you would like to have more of to accelerate your learning? And then on the right-hand side, you will be able to see the results coming in color-coded by the results in the last question. So as you would see, these on the right-hand side are the options that we had in the earlier question. And then we're seeing the results from the current one here, then color-coded. So let's have a look at them. To begin with, the yellow one, unknown, basically means that we have some people that are answering on this question that didn't answer kind of the earlier question. So basically, we don't know anything about kind of the response to the earlier question. But looking at I like it as is, that means that we have 26 responses. Oh, I see a question now. Pop it in the Q&A. I didn't have time to read it completely. Sorry. We have 29 responses that are saying that they like the module as is. And out of those, 7% are people that are unknown. We don't know what if they are keeping up or not. 20% of those responses need a bit more support, and 73 of them are saying that they are keeping up. And this is a very easy way to really directly see kind of what actions you can take to cater for different student groups. For example, I think we have if we have someone that is like, or a bigger group that is saying that they are not keeping up, maybe those kind of colors are those we want to look out for a little bit more among our examples. Any questions on that one, or kind of the segmentation or the trends question? I know they can be quite complex, so pop it in the Q&A and I'll try to answer them as we go along. But let's take a question before we move to the next part. I guess respondents use their phone or computer to answer and that they are online. Have you studied the frequency of going off on a tangent when the phone is active? That is checking Facebook or such. I don't believe we have any studies on that as of now, but it's a very interesting topic. The kind of what we are hearing from our customers is rather that when we have engagement, like questions during a lecture, it's rather than we see people going off on a tangent. Such a good phrasing, by the way. They are staying with the content as they are kind of engaging with the content that we are presenting rather. But it's a really good topic, and I'm going to bring it to our team. I think that could be something really interesting to have a look at in more depth. As you see now, folks, we have 21 questions coming in. So please help me to prioritize them. So go check in the Q&A and give a thumbs up to the questions that you think are the absolute most relevant ones. Now it's time for a second reflection question. So I want to tap into your expertise once again. What students' insight is helping you the most in your teaching? So what are things that you would like to know or that you usually ask your students for in order to be able to kind of tailor or work with them better during the semesters? And once again, I will leave you, we will have a few minutes, so take your time, reflect a little bit, and then we're going to go through some of the answers. Let's start, have a look on them. Direct qualitative feedback. Absolutely. I will ask you for feedback today as well, because direct qualitative feedback is super important, I think. What they don't understand, testing knowledge as I go to adjust the teaching. Good one. Are you keeping up? It's such a strong question, isn't it? I happy to say the problems they're having. Existing knowledge on the topic for discussion. It's also a great one to kind of have your student group explain for each other what they already know and kind of applying that to the existing knowledge base already. Starting level, it's a great one. Questions during the class time. Student comprehension of more complex subjects, definitely. I love how much feedback we're seeing. That is amazing. What have you learned that you will take into your future practice? That one is a great one as well. To kind of connect the knowledge back to whatever we're doing next, maybe going out and working somewhere, or hopefully, gotta say. Ask a warmer question before the subject question. This is such a good one as well. And also kind of connect back to the earlier content, maybe to give so it's like a warm up and a reminder at the same time. Once again, personal experiences. Lots and lots of great examples coming in here. Thank you all for sharing. I like to add the pin on image question to check in a visual way whether they get the content of the lesson. very interesting feedback from all of you. And like I mentioned, there are more people and more answers here that than I have time to read up now. But you will get the presentation afterwards, and I really encourage you to have a long scroll through here. Lots of good stuff. Thank you, everyone. I added a little bonus bit towards the end of this session. So just 3 quick best practices for you as a presenter before we move into kind of the feedback and Q&A bit of today. So let's just quickly touch on 3 best practices for presenters when they're using Mentimeter. The first one is to make sure to engage early in your presentation to have the engagement kind of last longer. This we've seen from a lot, we've heard it from our customers and we've seen it ourselves. If you start your session with engagement, the chances of the engagement staying for the session or staying longer in your session increases. I think the power of the icebreaker and the power of the check-in, it shouldn't be undervalued. I think there's a better word there, but and kind of with early engagement, what we see is, like I mentioned, check-ins and icebreakers. You can ask people kind of just a fun off-topic question to just make sure to kind of set the scene, maybe kind of warm up the room a little bit, make sure your students are joining into your presentation. And you can also use the underestimated, thank you. Perfect to have proper teachers in the room today when my language or my English knowledge is you hear it's leaving me. That's what's happening. It's been a day. Anyhow, another great check-in is, like a few of you have already said, to kind of check back on the old content as well. Do a little reminder of like, what did we do last? Did we remember anything from it? So yeah, engage early to have the engagement last longer. A second best practice is that when you create your presentation, balance the open-ended questions with the close-ended questions. And what I mean when I say open-ended and close-ended question is that throughout today, you have seen a few different question examples. So we have tried out open-ended ones, the open-ended like text input, and we tried out the word cloud. Both of those would be what we call open-ended question types. That is that the participant can type in the answers by themselves. So you as a presenter, you leave the floor open a little bit for the participants to write whatever they are feeling. The benefit of that is that people can do just that. They can write exactly what they want, and you get more of that like qualitative input. Then we also have the close-ended questions. So that would be all our ranking questions, the multiple choice one, pin on image, 2x2 grid, all of them that we're trying out today. And those are rather questions that you as a presenter have framed in the way that you give your participants a kind of a box or a preset answer options to choose between. And the benefit of using that type of question is that you will more often get a very powerful visualization of the results directly. And you can also use it more easily to get a feeling of the distribution of answer, like the pattern of answers in a group. The second bit about like balancing open-ended and close-ended questions is that we have seen that using a mix of different interactivity options or like interactivity options and question is important when you want to keep people's interest during a longer time. So I would just encourage you to kind of mix up your questions. On the right-hand side, we have a typical pin on image question where we're asking our audience in maybe a less formal way, to say the least, how they're feeling today. But you can, of course, ask your group how they're feeling in a number of different ways. So use the pin on image like this. You can ask them to submit just one emoji in a word cloud. that would represent how they're feeling. You can, of course, also put in an open-ended one and have people maybe reflect a bit longer. And kind of switching your questions up like this is a really powerful way to make sure that you kind of keep your audience on their toes in a good way. The last one, and this I think you have already mastered from seeing your reflections earlier, is to ask for feedback and not be afraid to kind of ask for feedback mid-session, at the end of a session, at the end of a module, in between lessons. And using Menti for this is a great use of the tool, basically. And with that, I think it's the perfect segue, because now I want to hear about your feedback. So we are reaching the end of today's webinar. We have another 15 minutes, and those we're going to spend on Q&A and some feedback. So I'm gonna challenge you a little bit now to have 2 tasks running at the same time. The first is to please check in the Q&A and upvote the questions, and then I will start going through a few of them. And the second one is to give us some feedback. So what did you think of today's webinar? Direct qualitative feedback. What did you like and what didn't you like? We are planning to host quite a few more of these ones, so we want to make sure that we keep them as relevant for you guys as possible. So 2 tasks happening now for the coming minutes. Feedback in the open-ended question and Q&A. If you have multiple groups, how do you do surveys and combine the results across all groups? Interesting question. That would kind of depend a little bit on your setup. Mentimeter, like what you can do is, of course, use the same presentation with the same join link in the different groups, and then you would have kind of all of the results coming in the same presentation, kind of independently of what group you're running it with. Especially if you're using like the join link, then you can have a presentation that is open for a longer time and then kind of collect answers as you go along. And then all of the results will be gathered kind of, or will be updated once you're kind of collecting new answers. What you can always also do is to reset the results on the presentation and then use it like a second time with a new group. When you then download the results of your Menti, I think maybe Astra can help us with the help article on how you download the Excel with your results. Then you will see kind of all of the results and also kind of split by session. What you can do with Menti, which is a limitation that we have today, is to take responses from different presentations or kind of to merge presentations, so to say. So that is a limitation that we have today. But if you rather want to kind of use, you can use the same presentation and have it open during a longer time, and you will also always be able to see all results of a presentation if you want to reset it in between your group after your presentation. But a good question, definitely. And this is something I know our product team is keeping their eyes on as well. Can you include any animation in PowerPoint in Menti? The short answer is no. So when you import a PowerPoint to Mentimeter, it will be static. But if you instead want to add kind of Menti elements into your PowerPoint, then all animations and stuff like that in PowerPoint will be as they are. And then you just add in the interactive Menti questions in there. How did you add the GIF to the bar chart? Let me show you. So now I'm gonna leave the presentation mode. So for any of you who haven't seen Menti behind the scenes yet, this is how it looks. On the left-hand side, you have all the different slides that we've gone through. In the middle, we are going to see kind of the current question that we're having a look at. And on the right-hand side, we're seeing the slide editor. So let's have a look at, wait, I can create a new one, a multiple choice question. So if you want to create a new question, you click on new slide, multiple choice, and then you can add your questions and you can add your options. And if you want to add a GIF to the to the option, you click on this little icon here. So you basically click here, and then you have the possibility to either upload an image from your computer, to pick an image from our image library, or one of the GIFs. So you can search for something or just scroll down and choose something that you like. A great question, thank you. Let's go back to presentation mode again. With the trends feature, would you need to give the exact same presentation across several lectures to be able to show the trend in a question? Yes, exactly. So for the trends feature to work, you have to have the same question in the same presentation. So what people usually do that want to use the trends feature is that you create a presentation with only that question. So basically in that one, so you only have like the scales question in one presentation with that join instruction. So then you can have your entire kind of Menti presentation for the rest that is more like specific to the topic that you're covering today. And then you can show the QR code or just have people answer kind of the scales question specifically. So to kind of keep that one separate. You can, of course, also have it in a bigger presentation. But for the trends feature to work, you have to have the same question in the same presentation. I hope I was being clear. Please give me follow-up questions if there's anything you want me to specify further. Thank you. When importing Menti slides into a PowerPoint, will the number of Menti slides be increased? Current limit is 3. You are very correct in that the current limit is 3. I know that our product team is working on this right now. It's one of our focus areas at Mentimeter going forward to see how we can have an even better interaction between Mentimeter and PowerPoint. Yeah, we basically see the two as complements to each other. So it's very natural that we have to have a good kind of connection in between the two. I can't promise anything about the exact question number or question limit yet though, but stay tuned and hopefully we can give you good news in a little while. We have 26 questions left and not that much time. Thank you. So please help me with some more thumbs up if you haven't already. So I make sure we use the last minutes here on the most important ones. So if you haven't already, click on open Q&A and then give a thumbs up to the ones that are most relevant to you. What steps is Mentimeter taking to address accessibility issues? Very good question. We are currently having an accessibility expert today here at Mentimeter that is working with us to make sure that both our website and menti.com is made to be as accessible as possible. Good to know is that as a participant, Mentimeter is working quite well already. We are scoring high in there are a few different accessibility frameworks, I know, especially for the participant. We do have some improvement to do on the presenter side of things, but for the participant, it's working quite well at the moment. There are a few question types that I know are trickier if you or that you should stay away from if you want to make your presentation as accessible as possible. And the primary one is the pin on image one. And that kind of goes with the structure of the slide that it's going to be tricky for one with, it could be tricky to kind of place a pin on an image if you, for example, have trouble seeing. But otherwise, our main question types, the word cloud, the multiple choice, the scales one, most of like our priority questions and so forth are quite well adapted to be accessible. And it's important for Menti that we keep it that way. And that's also why we want to be even better going forward. Nice. Can you present the result? Can you preset that results are hidden with certain slides and shown from the start for others? Let me show you what we can preset. So basically, here on the right-hand side, we can go to the multiple choice one again. We have the settings for each slides. So if you scroll down here, you have the possibility to have the voting open and closed as a default. So with this top one, I open or close the voting, and with the bottom one, I have show or kind of hide results. So the short answer is yes, and this is where you do it. So you can either preset it when you're setting up your presentation, or as soon as you move to a question, you can also make the setting kind of on the fly. Nice. Maybe I did equalizing. Oh, maybe I said that wrong, but provide equal opportunity. So basically, I guess, maybe one of you can help me with a better word for that. Let's have the comment section help me. Otherwise, I'm sorry. Let's go to the very last bit of this webinar. We are kind of running out of time. Thank you for the feedback. We are going to go through it in detail afterwards. But before I leave you, we have a few more resources to help you. We have our help center, so help.mentimeter.com. That is your go-to place for kind of step-by-step guides on how to do anything from setting up your first Mentimeter presentation, how to kind of set up a trends question maybe, how to create a pin on image one, or how to invite a colleague to collaborate on your presentation. We also have our blog, mentimeter.com/blog, and there you will see we do blog posts on anything from like new releases or changes to our product, what is happening at our office. We also publish a lot of like customer stories and basically tell a possibility for you guys to know how it's going for or kind of how other of our customers are using Menti. We also have our templates library, and that is the go-to place if you want to find a ready-made presentation to copy to your account. So all our users have the possibility to go to our templates library, search, browse around, find something that works for you, and then just copy it with a click to your presentation. You will find our support also on email, hello@mentimeter.com, or once you're logged into Mentimeter, you will see a chat bubble in the bottom right corner, and there you can live chat with our support team. Lastly, we have a self-paced learning hub that is called Mentimeter Academy, so academy.mentimeter.com. We have a bunch of different modules there, one that is about getting started with Menti, and we just now before Christmas also released a module on inclusive teaching. So that one I can also really recommend. So plenty of things to do also after this webinar. And with that, thank you for today. You've all been great. Very thankful that we had so many of you here today. You will get the recording and you will get the presentation now after the webinar in an email. So keep a lookout for that. And if you have any more questions, pop them in the chat, pop them in the Q&A, and we'll get back to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for today.